Hello from Easier Habits. I'm Alec.
And I'm Meg.
And we are on a quest to get you a repeatable client acquisition model.
Yay!
So we've tried out several things from video sales letters and various Facebook ads and lead pages, doing a workshop by itself, which got some interest, but at least the first iteration. Did the first iteration get you any clients?
The very first one, no.
No. Okay.
Like the first 5-day workshop, right?
Yeah, first 5-day workshop challenge. And what are we on the second one? Or?
Yeah, I just finished the second one.
How did that go?
It was good. Yeah, it was really good. So I had, a bunch more people. Again, it's one of those things that I think people, they're like, yes, let's do this thing. And then they're like, oh, sorry, I wasn't able to do that today. Oh, sorry, I wasn't able to do that today. I'll get that done, tomorrow. I'll get that done next week. And so of the people who were participating, which there was 8 of them, only 2 of them I think actually finished.
Yeah.
So it's kind of okay, well, I guess that's to be expected, but it also does give me a little bit more motivation to be able to get that piece automated,
yeah.
So that I don't have to be the one doing it each time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is, because of the attrition and people kind of do it at their own pace. So, yeah, we can talk about automating it and work on that a piece at a time. Probably the easiest low-hanging fruit version of that for right now would just be schedule it. Do you have the email contact for people for in the 5-day challenge? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, do they have to automatically join your list to join the 5-day challenge?
Yeah.
That is good. Yes. That is how it should be, right?
Yeah, I'm they do. So, that's part of it.
You could set this up later, too, that, people who sign up via a form and have the tag, you could have, an email sequence.
Yeah.
But even just for now, what you could do is have, and it's better if this is individualized, but just in Gmail, you could put in an email, schedule, because how many people were there for this time?
8.
8 total. So there's 6 people who haven't gotten around to it. So you could just schedule a follow-up email with 8 people literally in, a few minutes in just Gmail.
Yeah. Right?
And that's a good way to circle back with them.
Yeah.
And the other thing you could do, since they're already on your email list, is a week after the challenge, send out what you learned from this challenge, or share something that someone created from this challenge if they have permission.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's another way you could spark engagement. But on the upside, right? 25% of people did everything, which is actually kind of a high number.
Yay!
What
that's
is it?
So sad that's a
80 to
number.
90% of people never finish an online course.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
So,
I guess that makes sense.
Right? And so, actually, 25% of people finishing a small sample size. But it's not that bad. But there are people who are more engaged. So do you have, a follow-up specifically for them?
Not yet, but that's one of the things that's on my list of
Okay.
stuff for this week.
Right. So that's follow-up. It'd be interesting to see how that goes. The nice thing about this, I think, is that, again, we're talking about customer journey. It serves a nice customer journey niche where it's getting to know you more than just a single video, even if it's automated, right? It'll still be they'll have interactions with you, sort of.
Yeah.
At least they'll hear from you and, they'll be prompted to act, etc. And so they get to know you and build trust, and then that makes it easier at the end of the course to do the invitation, and that's something that we should work on. And that, especially we get that automated, that can become a part of the repeatable process, and it's a great place if people aren't ready to immediately move to becoming clients, to say, well, I have this free 5-day challenge, and the next one's running here. If you'd like to, and actually that's another way we could create scarcity. It's just not run them constantly, not have them be evergreen, but have them run at certain times. If you'd like to have a sit-down session with Meg before then, you could get more people in a free consultation. So there's that. But for now, the most effective thing, because it got you clients and people into this system, was the workshop.
Yeah.
You have been talking with at least one other person and groups about
more than
workshops?
one. Yeah,
okay.
a couple of them actually. And so kind of trying to do that at the same time as building this list of potential places to do them. And it's been interesting as I've been building the list, just because like there are ones that I'm like, yes, this is perfect, and then there's ones where I'm like, well, maybe-ish, sort of, I'm not sure, you know, so I don't really know like the relative fit, you know, and then other ones that are like conferences coming up, but it's not a specific group, right? It would be needing to talk to the conference runner and see if that's something. So like there's a couple of different steps in there. And so being able to like have all of that in one list, I'm like, okay, well I have to put this guy over there and that guy over there. So I start to get like a little bit caught up in the organization of it. But I do have 45 of those now, ones that are good leads, and then I've got, you know, another 10 that are kind of on the back burner as like maybe, I don't know. But between podcasts and YouTube channels and Clubhouse groups and Facebook groups that do live streaming and other things like that.
Right. So one of the things we talked about to scale this, right, we want a list of 100 overall, which meant that, you know, I think we calculated if you did 3 workshops a month, which potentially could be sustainable, that would be getting 2 or 3 clients per workshop, which, you know, that may be high. Maybe these groups don't all have viewerships of 400 or whatever, right? So we'll see. But, you know, that would give us 3 years of workshops to work with. Probably in the short term, though, we don't want to just do 3 a month. We want you to have more free time until you're filling up clients. We'll slow that down once your clients thing fill up. But we want to get Meg as many of these visits as possible. And one of the things that we can automate is actually hiring a virtual assistant that I've worked with in the past to do some reach out to these people. And so, you know, Meg will have the list. Definitely mark the people, like the ones that look like awesome opportunities, and the ones that are kind of middle, and the ones that are like iffy, because again, it's really useful information, because once we have these 50, another thing, after the person's had practice reaching out to people, then we could ask them to help fill in more. Right? And you want to have as many materials. You want to have done this yourself, so you can say things like, here are good places to look for, right? You want to be able to hand them examples saying, like, this is exactly what I'm looking for, right? And so all of those things will help people. If you just hire someone from scratch to find you places to talk, you know, if you have the extra money and whatnot and time I think you'll find you'll just spend at least as much time training them and saying yes or no. And so, like, I don't think you'd save a ton of time unless you're paying a lot of money for someone who's done this exact thing for someone else, essentially a consultant.
Yeah, well, and very specifically, like, I'm having to do most of my searches in Japanese, because any English searches return stuff geared towards like English speakers who want to do business in Japan. And so that's kind of one of the things that I'm like, well, so a lot of the outreach is going to need to be in Japanese.
Okay. Well, and I've worked with someone in English then, and I was hoping, since you're working with advanced to intermediate people, you could reach out, but it probably is better just to reach out to people in Japanese.
Well, and there are certain people, like, yes, I can totally reach out in English. There are other ones that I'm not sure, and that's kind of like, I'd rather reach out to them in Japanese. And
I mean, I think there's probably a segment of people, again, like U.S. influencers who are organizing big events in Japan, where those people would definitely be English speaking, and you could reach out to them like, hey, for your Japanese patrons, or, you know, like, you know, is this a service you'd be willing to offer or something? Or, you know, maybe I could do a free workshop for you, for your Japanese patrons, to get them warmed up and for English speaking at your conference or things like that. So you could work that side, but probably yes. All right, so bilingual Japanese and English speaker. So that's some research. All right. But there are a few concepts that I wanted to dig in just specifically as we're organizing this. I think we have an idea of like 3 core activities, which are following up from the challenge and you know, automating that as you have extra time. We don't have to do that right now. finishing up the list, at least to 50, and hopefully train somebody else on that, to get 50 more. And then actually, the personal outreach that you're doing for workshops, running those things. Between those 3 activities, that's pretty good amount of, 3 areas of focus. One thing you mentioned this morning was working sustainably. So I kind of wanted to ask you what that meant to you and what you're learning about it.
Yeah. So, I've had a lot of times in my life where I'm like, okay, let's throw everything at it. And then, I burn out and then I have to like, oh, okay, whatever. And so finding ways that I can shift my focus mindfully, if that makes sense, so that I can, I can do this thing for a while and then, kind of the time boxing, but like, I don't know, time boxing in my own kind of way, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it. It's just the way that my brain works. But having things that I have different days that I focus on other different things. So like I right now have loaded my Tuesdays with in-person stuff. Like I've got right now like 5 appointments on Tuesdays.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But so having days that I'm, I can just focus on that. And then days where I focus more on content or focus more on these types of lists and, other things like that. And then within each of those days, how am I going to be able to like not shut down in between, which means understanding like what types of breaks that I need to take and what I can do on those breaks. We've got our walks that we do. I'll do some just light reading of an interesting, blog post or something like that. Occasionally a puzzle just to like let my mind reset. But then, also being able to get back into things and working more on those transition times. And so for me, transitions are hard. I get done with a thing and I'm like, okay, now what? And my brain's like, good night. And so being able to work through that without breaking my brain.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, and do you have like a list of specific activities?
Yes. I wrote out like, I did a whole mind map of different things and so, these are things that are physical. These are things that are mental. These are things that I would like to do, but then end up just being too much of a distraction. And so probably not a good idea. These are things, so I've got all of those things. Yes, exactly. Kind of mapped out. And so I'll have a few of them that'll be like, okay, well, let's see. I've got this book that I'm reading right now. And so I can take a 15-minute break, listen to a chapter while, doing a puzzle, and then move on to the next thing, right? And so I find that helps a lot to like keep the momentum, but not like stress myself out.
Yeah. A lot of experimenting with the right cadence for work, how long to focus, what kind of breaks to take, and etc.
And I feel like it's a little bit harder for me because I do, I don't do well with exact set schedules every single day of the same thing. So like when you were doing grocery shopping, you had, your 2 days a week that you did your grocery shopping. And like for me to settle in onto a day to do my grocery shopping, like for me, that's hard because grocery shopping is something I fit in between, other stuff where it needs to, when it needs to happen, but I won't go if I don't see a big need for it. Right. Yeah. So I have a hard time saying, I know I've said like Mondays and Fridays, except that I went last Friday and I haven't been since, and I'll be going today, which is Wednesday. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it's like I don't have to think about it, and part of it is if I'm doing both meal planning and grocery shopping, there's a double efficiency because if I don't know when I'm going grocery shopping, one, I have to figure out when to fit the grocery shopping in, but I also have to figure out when to fit the meal planning in.
Yeah.
And that is something that probably I'm going to have to come up with some kind of cadence where I do that on my own. So at any given point when you say I'm going grocery shopping, I can add the next few days materials to the list. But then it's nice. I know exactly how much to get and right. And I found that when I did that, I could settle into the right amount such that we very rarely ran out, but I also didn't get so much stuff that it was anyway.
We have
so
extras.
But yeah, for me, I'm not necessarily a very scheduled person, but the advantages of not having to think about when to do it on top of it, or how much to do, right? If I do it every day, I not only know when to do it, I know I need exactly, whatever 4 meals on Monday or something and 3 on Friday to plan for, etc. So I find that's helpful, but I think generally speaking, it sounds like having more specific activities that you need, you have the picture of what you need to do and now you're trying to fit it to your time, but having that specifics about these are the specific activities that you're working on is helping you actually figure out how to use your time better, because when you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, it's really hard to use your time well.
Yep, especially because when there's all of that stuff, breaking it down right into the different things is that in and of itself is a whole task. And then actually getting the stuff done. So
I find if I don't know what to do, it's a lot easier just to shrug it off and not work or do something else. Right, or pursue low urgency, low important things that are clearer.
That.
So those are all things, but once you know specifically what you do, then there's still some figuring out the right amount of focus and how much time and how you organize things. I like to have the priorities and time box sections of focus versus checking email or other activities. And so that works for me, but I don't like to say this hour I'm going to accomplish this thing, because especially if it's if I don't know exactly how long it's going to take, I'll just either finish it real quick and then be like, oh, I'm done, I don't have to work. Or it'll take me a long time and, longer than that, and then it throws off my schedule. And so I like having the 3 top priorities and then time for the day, and then these are the chunks of time in which I'm working, and then I'll have a few nice to haves that I can fit in. So, but one big question we kind of asked about, what could we do to accelerate, the workshops and have a big list. Kind of off screen, we talked about all right, virtual assistant, what can we do so that you can focus on the presenting and the landing clients and less on the finding once we have the list. But my question to you is, what right now are the biggest blockers preventing you from doing tons of workshops and getting tons of clients?
I mean, there is still kind of that initial outreach, finding people to reach out to, not a big deal. Actually doing that outreach, a little scarier.
So having a virtual assistant addresses a lot of that.
And I think the other thing is, just as I've been working to try and find, more sustainable approaches, I don't want to throw all of the things into it all at once and then end up overwhelming myself and having to back out of a bunch of things. And so, figuring out that comfortable speed of, doing things.
And I do want to qualify, it's within the time, right, that you're allotting and the balance that you have, what's preventing you from being super productive and getting a ton of clients. I had someone reach out to me with a request, they want to double their income, and that's a great specific thing, great specific goal. And I was thinking through, all right, what am I going to, do in our kind of free consultation sit-down session? And, the first question, sometimes I find it's really helpful to get people thinking about what they need. So I'll ask, the obvious question is all right, if you want to double your income, why don't you do just twice as much of what you're already doing?
Yeah.
And I already kind of know the answers, right? There's 2, which is, what I'm doing isn't scaling. So even if I doubled my effort, I wouldn't get twice the results. And the other is I don't have time in my day. You know, I'm already working X amount. I can't just double the amount of time I put into it. And so this is about like, all right, how do we start finding the things that are yielding you the most results and cutting out the things that aren't? You know, what are the systems that we can automate? So, you know, the 5-day challenge, for example, is something eventually we can automate. But I'm kind of curious, like, what are those things? Like, are there things that you're doing that we could cut out?
Probably. And I'm trying to think, like, the thing is, like, there's all these things that I want to add back in, right? Like the content creation and posting and things like that. And so that might be something that I will think about today, and then we can talk about tomorrow, because I'm honestly not sure right now.
I mean, and newsletter creation, right? Like, that's a part of maintaining the people who have joined and are coming through the challenge. You want to do that, kind of keep them warm, so that, you know, you'll start getting people through coming to you that, like, all right, you know, I was really busy, but now I have more free time. I finished the course and I want to, like, you know, I want to take lessons, or I'm having a hard time doing this on my own. I want to take lessons, right? Yeah. So those types of things, you know, that kind of content creation is probably really helpful. It'll take a while before other types of content creation, like just posting things on social media, will get you people. It's not a bad piece, but it does feel like, all right, for example, we talked about, like, all right, how are we going to get you more results? Kind of scale the things that are already running and working for us right now before we do some investments that's going to take 6 months, a year, 2 years to really pay off into a pipeline. But, you know, that said, I'm sure there's some fun stuff to do with, like, ChatGPT and virtual assistants to help you with content creation, right? Those are things we could do, but you want, like, especially with the virtual assistant content creation, you want to do that at a point where you can afford to essentially run that at a loss for a while, because you have a full client load. So content creation, I'd put off. But we can talk more about, you know, what to take out and what to put in.
Okay.
So, do you have another comment?
No.
Okay, I thought you were about to say something.
No.
All right. Well, so there you have it. This is very strategic in terms of, like, all right, where are we? Big picture. What are our top, 3 priority activities? What are some of the obstacles in our way? And, you know, a lot of times in coaching and learning to run your own business, it's not these big epiphanies that this is the right thing that I should do. A lot of times you'll feel like you have those, like, oh, I have this great idea for something new to try, and it doesn't work at all. It's really the process of like, all right, where are we? What's working more? How can we do more of that? What's not working for us? How can we take inventory of that at regular points so we can cut things out that's less effective? So, all right, well, until next time, make big changes one small habit at a time.
Bye.